Powered by Riverside FM.
Man, I remember way back in the day when I was growing up watching NFL football, the way that the NFL dealt with the preseason is a lot different than the way the NFL is dealing with preseason nowadays. More specifically, the Minnesota Vikings are purple. Back in the day, preseason games were kind of laid out this way. Like your first preseason game, like your starters would maybe get one possession and then they were subbed out. And then the rest of the squad, guys that were trying to make the team, got a chance to play the majority of the game. Second game, they got like that first quarter, the first stringers I'm talking about. And then for the other three quarters, you got your reserves. That third preseason game was your dress rehearsal. That's when your starters got maybe a half and maybe a couple of possessions in the third quarter, and then they were out for the rest of the game. And then your fourth preseason game was no starters at all. It was strictly reserves. Coaches had to make decisions about who was going to make the team, so they used that fourth preseason game for that. Now things have completely changed. Like they've shortened the preseason by a game. Instead of playing 4 preseason games, now you got the 3 preseason games. And now, slowly but surely, over the last couple of years, you're starting to see a lot of teams go to this joint practice style type way to evaluate their players. And so I wanted to take a little bit of a dive into what's better for teams. Is it better to have these joint practices, which a lot of coaches are really touting right now, that they really, really like? Or is it the preseason games? I can say right off the bat, it really sucks for the fans if you're on the side of the fence for joint practices, because you get limited optics into seeing all the new guys, the guys that you're excited about. This year, J.J. McCarthy is going to be a huge thing that fans want to observe as much as they possibly can. And so either these joint practices are not made available to the public, depending on the organization, or definitely you're going to have some limited availability to be able to go out and watch some of these games. So in that respect, it sucks for the fans. And so for those of you that don't know how the Minnesota Vikings run their joint practices, it's usually 1 or 2 days of like team drills right before a preseason game. It's like 7-on-7. A lot of things are scripted. And for a coach, myself being a coach, you want to have that control over different scenarios that you want to work on, control over what your drills look like. Once you start getting into the exhibition or the preseason legit games, you lose a lot of control over what you can accomplish during those games. So, these joint practices, everything's it's controlled, it's scripted more. You get competitive reps across different position groups. So, those are the pros of joint practices. What are some cons? People are saying, okay, we're hearing all this good stuff about joint practices. What are some cons, and what may be some cons for the Minnesota Vikings? Coaches control the tempo and the matchups. So you're not getting instinctual, tempoed plays from players. Everything is controlled by the coaches, the tempo. It's a safer environment for starters to get real reps, but it's not organic. Again, everything is scripted. There's a lot of situational football, 2-minute drills, red zone drills, etc. But it's without full contact risk. So again, you're taking different components of real game, like real live bullets that you would get in a preseason game for these joint practices. You get more evaluation flexibility, repeated reps against unfamiliar competition. So those are kind of the pros that I'm focusing on. Now the cons of it is you get there's always a risk of fights during these things, man. There's risk of fights. There's risk of injuries, especially when you're doing offensive line, defensive line drills. There's always seems to be fights when you have the wide receivers and the D-backs when they go one-on-ones. A lot of temper flares. I mean, there's been some joint practices where they've had to cancel those joint practices because of fights. And now you're wasting 1 or 2 days of getting reps. You know, there's no game speed timing for special teams or different play clock situations. I mean, everything is non-organic. And so that would be, you know, something that would be, you know, a critique of having a joint practice. Fans really don't get the same feel. There's no scoreboard, no stakes, nothing like that. So again, from a fan standpoint, man, if you're just looking at it from that standpoint, fans probably don't care for it too much. Here are some pros and cons of preseason games, man. And I'm not saying what side of the fence that I fall on when it comes to joint practices versus preseason games. I mean, I understand the reasoning of joint practices from a fan standpoint. I would love for J.J. McCarthy to get out there in a game situation and sling it while I'm on my recliner watching the game. I mean, that would be great. But here are some pros from preseason games that maybe people don't think about. You know, it simulates real NFL games. You want those live bullets. You got the clouds, you got the clock, you got organic game situations. You're giving an opportunity for bubble players to make the roster. And I guess just because you have joint practices, you're still going to have that preseason game. But again, I think eventually you're going to see them slowly but surely devalue the preseason games. Like, I don't see the NFL ever getting rid of the preseason games because I think they're making money off of it. I mean, you got people, why people do this, I really don't know. But you've got people out there paying regular season prices, big time money for seats for preseason games, and they're getting a lack of product. So in my opinion, as long as fans continue to do that and want to do that, the NFL is not going to get rid of preseason games. They barely wanted to get rid of the 4th preseason game. Coaches get a chance to see how players respond under pressure, man. You can't simulate that in a joint practice. Cons of preseason games, you know, starters usually play about 1 or 2 series. You get basic vanilla playbooks. So, you know, there's really no scheme reveals during those preseason games. You know, that's a con in my opinion. And then you have higher risk injury, you know, especially for key starters, no matter how much they play. I mean, look at J.J. McCarthy last year. The game against the Raiders, you really didn't see anything significant during the game, but that's where supposedly, you know, he hurt his meniscus last year. What does this mean for the 2025 Minnesota Vikings? J.J. McCarthy gets meaningful reps versus another team in a control setting. And I think that's important. There are some pros to cons to that, but I think they're going to handle J.J. McCarthy with kid gloves because he's so important and he's coming off a knee injury. It's going to be a great environment to evaluate our wide receiver depth. Addison, Naylor, you know, J.J., Jets, all the new guys that we've added to our roster. So, in my opinion, UP Nation, I think there are some advantages to holding joint practices. Definitely there's a value. I can see why coaches would want to do it. I just think it kind of overall sucks for the fans. And again, it creates a hunger for the regular season to start. And I think the NFL are geniuses for doing that. So which one is better for the Vikings, man, in your opinion? Joint practices, preseason games, or do you not care? But put it in the comments, man. I want to know your thoughts about this. I'm asked about this all the time. Why are teams going to these joint practices? And it comes from frustrated fans being able to see their teams play. And I think slowly but surely, NFL teams are really going to value these joint practices and start to devalue the preseason. Again, I don't think the NFL is ready to get rid of the preseason completely because it's a moneymaker. And the NFL is all about making money. But what are your thoughts? See value in the joint practices? Do you like the joint practices better because you want that controlled environment and you want to keep our key players safe? Or do you not like it because you want to see our players on the field playing preseason games so those preseason games aren't just blah and bland. What are your thoughts on that? Put them in the comments. Just wanted to do a dive into that. People were sending me emails and say, hey, Coach, what do you think about, the joint practices? I know there was an announcement that I believe it's on August 14th, 15th, 16th, or whatever it is. We're going to be playing the Patriots in a joint practice type situation. So people were kind of reaching out saying, hey, what are your thoughts? So I wanted to do a video on that. What are your thoughts? Put it in the comments. This has been Unconventional Playbook. Please take a minute, hit that like button. Hit that like button. It helps me continue to pump out this content to you guys, which I enjoy doing. And as always, UP Nation, we will see ya when we see ya. Skol.